I guess I'll just have a few Skittles before bed. So sleepy. Oh, this isn't such a bad dream. It's kind of relaxing, actually. Very, very nice. Yes, yes.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Whoa, wait a minute. What's going on?
What do you mean, a dream within a dream?
Why are there so many songs about rainbows?
No, I don't feel so good. What? Who is this weirdo? Why am I in a swamp and why is there a frog playing a banjo? Whoa, not again. Oh, I think I'm gonna be sick.
A dream within a dream. 2 levels. 3.
LeVar Burton?
Butterfly in the sky.
Okay, I don't know what was in those Skittles.
Look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
Get away from me, cat! It's a Pop-Tart cat! Get away from me, Pop-Tart cat!
It's so bright, so vivid. Double rainbow, it's so intense. What does this mean? It starts even look like a triple.
Oh, double rainbows. Bleh.
Discover the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to be focusing on a topic that will be the last topic of the quarter. So no more new information after this lesson. It will progress into a project that will take the duration of the school year. And that topic is electromagnetic radiation, or EMS, Electromagnetic Spectrum. This is lab number 3. Our focus question today is, what is light? And I have here a flashlight, which you're all pretty familiar with. Actually does 3 different settings. It's pretty cool. The question, well, what is this? What is this light that's coming out of this flashlight? So we're going to talk about that today. If you notice on the flowchart, you can see that light is a form of energy. Notice energy is something we've talked about in the previous labs with the law of conservation of energy and Newton's 3 laws of motion with energy. But we can also talk about it as light with particular properties. And as we know, all light is originated from our sun. So if we didn't have our sun, there would be no light on Earth. So when heat comes to Earth from the sun, various forms of radiation are absorbed into our atmosphere and converted into heat. Okay, so let's define light. Light is basically a series of waves emitted from the sun. And we call those waves electromagnetic waves. It's a combination wave of electricity and magnetism. They are officially, the unit for light is the photon. You might be familiar with that term. It can travel in a vacuum. That means that light does not need a medium to go through. And it travels at a rate of about 186,000 miles per second, which is very fast, the speed of light. Here's an example of a light wave. You can see that there are 2 parts of the wave, the magnetic and the electric portion of it, and it travels in straight lines. You can also break that wave into its particular parts. Basically, how much energy is this light wave emitting? And we can look at this in terms of peaks, troughs, and wavelengths. These are 3 different terms. The peaks are the top of the wave, the troughs are at the bottom of the wave, and the wavelength, like the name implies, is the length of the wave. You'll notice there is a midline, and that midline is basically identifying like no energy, and then the further away the peak or the trough is, the greater the energy is associated with that light wave. Okay, there's also something called amplitude, and amplitude has to do with, again, as I just mentioned, how far away the peak or the trough is from that midline. Let's watch an introduction to the electromagnetic spectrum with this video about how light interacts with your life.
Something surrounds you, bombards you, some of which you can't see, touch, or even feel. Every day, everywhere you go. It is odorless and tasteless, yet you use it and depend on it every hour of every day. Without it, the world you know could not exist. What is it? Electromagnetic radiation. These waves spread across a spectrum from very short gamma rays to X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light waves, even longer infrared waves, microwaves, to radio waves which can measure longer than a mountain range. This spectrum is the foundation of the information age and of our modern world. Your radio, remote control, text message, television, microwave oven, even a doctor's X-ray, all depend on waves within the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic waves, or EM waves, are similar to ocean waves in that both are energy waves. They transmit energy. EM waves are produced by the vibration of charged particles and have electrical and magnetic properties. But unlike ocean waves that require water, EM waves travel through the vacuum of space at the constant speed of light. EM waves have crests and troughs like ocean waves. The distance between crests is the wavelength. While some EM wavelengths are very long and are measured in meters, many are tiny and are measured in billionths of a meter, nanometers. The number of these crests that pass a given point within 1 second is described as the frequency of the wave. One wave, or cycle, per second is called a hertz. Long EM waves, such as radio waves, have the lowest frequency and carry less energy. Adding energy increases the frequency of the wave and makes the wavelength shorter. Gamma rays are the shortest, highest energy waves in the spectrum. So, as you sit watching TV, not only are there visible light waves from the TV striking your eyes, but also radio waves transmitting from a nearby station, and microwaves carrying cell phone calls and text messages, and waves from your neighbor's Wi-Fi, and GPS units in the cars driving by. There is a chaos of waves from all across the spectrum passing through your room right now. With all these waves around you, how can you possibly watch your TV show? Similar to tuning a radio to a specific radio station, our eyes are tuned to a specific region of the EM spectrum and can detect energy with wavelengths from 400 to 700 nanometers, the visible light region of the spectrum. Objects appear to have color because EM waves interact with their molecules. Some wavelengths in the visible spectrum are reflected, and other wavelengths are absorbed. This leaf looks green because EM waves interact with the chlorophyll molecules. Waves between 492 and 577 nanometers in length are reflected, and our eye interprets this as the leaf being green. Our eyes see the leaf as green, but cannot tell us anything about how the leaf reflects ultraviolet, microwave, or infrared waves. To learn more about the world around us, scientists and engineers have devised ways to enable us to see beyond that sliver of the EM spectrum called visible light. Data from multiple wavelengths help scientists study all kinds of amazing phenomena on Earth, from seasonal change to specific habitats. Everything around us emits, reflects, and absorbs EM radiation differently based on its composition. A graph showing these interactions across a region of the EM spectrum is called a spectral signature. Characteristic patterns, like fingerprints within the spectra, allow astronomers to identify an object's chemical composition and to determine such physical properties as temperature and density. NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope observed the presence of water and organic molecules in a galaxy 3.2 billion light-years away. Viewing our Sun in multiple wavelengths with the SOHO satellite allows scientists to study and understand sunspots that are associated with solar flares and eruptions harmful to satellites, astronauts, and communications here on Earth. We are constantly learning more about our world and universe by taking advantage of the unique information contained in the different waves across the EM spectrum.
Okay, welcome back. So the electromagnetic spectrum, as you noticed, is basically in all aspects of our life, from the sun beaming down on us, to the lights in our house, to the radio that is, at the side of the room, to the television that's playing, to the remote control that we use, to our cell phone every day. Notice there is no difference in light. The light type is the same in terms of it is electromagnetic waves from the sun. However, it is the frequency that is different and the wavelength that is different. So if you notice in this diagram, you can see that some light has very long wavelengths and very low frequencies, and some light has very short wavelengths and very high frequencies. So we'll talk about that in more detail. Here's a wave, and you can see that energy is traveling in one direction here. This kind of wave is called a transverse wave, and I'm going to use a slinky as a model to represent that. Notice how I have this slinky outward, and I can represent what a wave of light does with the movement of this slinky. Now, let's see if I can make it a little bit more controlled. If I'm just using one side, you can see the energy from my hand is being transferred into the slinky and going through it to the other side. There's also another type of wave. It's called a longitudinal wave, longitudinal. And this wave doesn't go up and down, it just goes in straight lines. So notice again, I have one hand that is moving the coil in one direction, and notice the energy is just going along the slinky. When it hits my hand, it comes back to the other side. So the energy is just going back and forth. And that's the same with light waves. Light waves, again, is energy traveling in a specific direction in certain types of waves, either transverse, up and down, or longitudinal, side to side. We can use some terms to break the different types of wavelengths coming from the sun in this really fun mnemonic device, or way to memorize something. Red monkeys in limousines usually exit gracefully. And we're going to use the beginning of those words for the specific type of waves that are coming from our sun. R is for radio, M is for microwave, I is for infrared or heat wave, limousine or L is for light, visible light that we see with our human eye, U is for ultraviolet, exit, which the X, not the E, is for X-rays, and then G is for gamma radiation. We're going to break each of those down and talk about them individually. Okay, let's start with radio waves. Radio waves are the longest type of waves that are coming from the sun. They are used in TV broadcasting because they can be transmitted through over great distances, like the size of mountain ranges, etc. They're also very useful for avalanche beacons to transport information if someone notices that an avalanche is happening. They're also used in heart rate monitors, which is pretty cool. Their rate, or their frequency, is their distance traveled is 3 kilometers, upwards of 3 kilometers, to a smaller distance of 30 centimeters. All right, microwaves. Microwaves are between 1 millimeter and 1 meter in length. Their uses are obviously for cooking with microwaves. We're going to take a look at a video of that in a moment. Also used in cell phones, cameras, and GPS. Let's watch a quick video on how microwaves work.
This is a food heating radio box. It uses radio waves to heat food. Different kinds of radio machines use different sizes of waves, but this radio box uses the same size of wave as computer hotspots in your house. It starts with the power changer, which turns the power from the wall into a kind of power that's better for making radio waves. Then the radio wave maker lets power fly around through the spaces inside it. This builds up a radio wave of a certain size, like how an empty bottle plays a certain note if you blow over the hole at the top. The radio waves then move down the radio hallway and into the food box. The metal spinner changes the shape of the radio waves, so the warm spots, where the waves are strong, move around a little. The radio waves heat the water inside food by pushing the tiny pieces water is made of to make them go faster. As the pieces move faster, they get hotter, which makes the food warmer. But the shape of the waves can cause certain spots to be hotter than others, so the food plate spins to give each piece of food some time in the hot areas. These boxes make it much easier for people to eat without spending a long time making their food.
Isn't that fun? So it's really the movement or the vibration of the water molecules inside your food that is going to increase friction and cause your food to get hotter or warmer. And the microwaves in the microwave is what is responsible for making those water molecules move faster or vibrate. All right, let's go to I, or infrared radiation. Again, infrared radiation, as well as microwaves, as well as radio, are invisible to the human eye. We can't see them unless you have special technology. And we do, in the terms of night vision goggles. So as you can see, here's a picture of someone with night vision goggles on. You can also see that they're looking at some deer in a glen at night that they would not be able to see otherwise. Also, infrared wavelengths are approximately 300 micrometers to 3 micrometers in distance. So they're much smaller, much smaller. They're also used in remote controls and heat-seeking cameras in police chases. All right, here we come with visible light. This is the one that we are most familiar with. Again, it's the only one that is detected with our human eye. And we are going from a distance of about 7 micrometers to about 4 micrometers, so much smaller. And it ranges from red all the way to purple or violet. And this is what we use for everyday vision. Why we see a purple sweater, why you see a black remote, etc. And you can break white light that's coming from the sun into the good old Roy G. Biv, or the rainbow, the prism. And that's going to break it out into its different wavelengths. Okay, the next type of electromagnetic radiation is ultraviolet. You'll notice it's ultraviolet because it's right after violet on the visible light spectrum. And that is just a little bit faster moving wavelength. That's what makes it ultraviolet. Now, there is unfortunately some dangers with this wave because it's a higher frequency and it's between 3 nanometers to 3 micrometers, I believe. 3 micrometers to 3 nanometers. So unfortunately, it can cause damage to your skin. If you're exposed for too long, it can cause skin cancer. But it is used for various things: black light, sterilizing medical equipment, and identifying if your money is forged, which is a good thing. Okay, now we're going to move on to x-rays. X-rays, you may have had them if you've broken a bone or needed to see something for a medical procedure. And this is a high energy wave, very small wavelengths, are really close together, very close together. It's again a very much smaller range that an x-ray machine uses. And of course it's used in the medical field, but it's also now used in airport security to make sure that everyone that's going in is keeping their baggage safe. And finally, we have gamma rays. They are the smallest wavelength, the highest frequency, and the most dangerous. These definitely are associated with potentially when you hear the term radiation treatment in a medical setting, this is the type of radiation that we're talking about. All of the other radiation in the electromagnetic spectrum is not strong enough to do any harm to cancer cells, which is the goal here. So the medical field definitely uses the gamma rays for that process. And also some things give off, natural things give off gamma radiation. That would be some pulsars in our night sky. Okay, let's watch a recap on the electromagnetic spectrum with a brain pop, which we have not seen in a while. Enjoy.
Chicken mushroom. Dear Tim and Moby, what is the electromagnetic spectrum? Signed, Winston. The electromagnetic spectrum is just the name for a bunch of types of radiation, organized by the amounts of energy they carry. No, it doesn't have to be from radioactive material like plutonium necessarily. Radiation is any movement of energy through space. You can think of this radiation as a wave made up of moving electrical and magnetic fields, or you can think of it as a stream of particles called photons. EM radiation is kind of indecisive. Sometimes it behaves like a wave, sometimes like particles. Starting with the lowest energy level, the 7 types of EM radiation are radio waves, microwaves, infrared light, visible light, ultraviolet light, X-rays, and gamma rays. Radio waves are used to transmit radio and television signals. AM radio uses low energy waves, FM radio uses medium energy waves, and TV uses high energy waves. Cell phones use radio waves too, and stars in space can also emit radio waves. Microwaves are used in microwave ovens and airplane radar systems. In the oven, microwaves heat up the water molecules in your food. With radar, microwaves are reflected off an airplane and sent back to the radar system to pinpoint the exact location of the plane. Infrared rays are often produced when an object radiates heat. You can't see them, but you do feel them. A remote control uses infrared rays to send signals to your TV set, stereo, or DVD player. Infrared radiation can also be used to take special photographs called thermographs. The next type of radiation in the spectrum is visible light. Thanks to special cells called cones, our eyes can perceive wavelengths of visible light as color. In order from lowest to highest energy, the colors are known as red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Ultraviolet rays occur naturally in sunlight. Fortunately, the ozone layer blocks most UV radiation from reaching the surface of the Earth. In large doses, UV rays can cause skin cancer and cataracts. X-rays have a very high penetrating power. That means they can travel easily through just about anything. Doctors use small doses of them to make pictures of your bones and organs and stuff. The X-rays travel more easily through flesh than bone. That's why shining X-rays through someone onto sensitive film can make an image of your insides. Gamma rays are the most energetic waves in the EM spectrum. Most gamma rays coming from space are absorbed by our atmosphere. But gamma rays are also produced on Earth in high-energy reactions, such as nuclear explosions. Gamma rays do a lot of damage when they pass through living cells. Where does the radiation come from? Well, all matter is made up of atoms, and each atom is made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Electrons orbit around the proton and neutron nucleus at different levels, or shells, depending on how much energy they have. Sometimes an electron drops from one energy level to another, giving off energy in the form of electromagnetic radiation. The sun, Earth, and stars all radiate electromagnetic energy of varying strengths. All electromagnetic radiation moves through the universe at a constant speed of 300,000 kilometers per second. EM radiation can even travel through the empty vacuum of outer space. The higher the energy of the wave, the more stuff it tends to pass through. Ugh, my soup's cold. Thanks. I was kind of afraid you were going to nuke it. No, I meant literally.
Alright, well I hope you enjoyed that wonderful Tim and Moby. I know I did. Now we're going to complete our lesson by filling in this worksheet. the electromagnetic spectrum. There are 7 questions, and there's also a chart on top to fill in with the different types of radiation in order from the highest wavelengths to the lowest. And I'm also looking for you to use Cami to try to make a wave that is a replication of the type of wavelength that you would observe for that particular option. Now, remember, the longer the wavelength, the less energy is associated. The shorter the wavelength, the more energy is associated. And then finally, we have a running weekly assignment. It's called the EMS Journal. This is going to give us some thought to how do we interact with the electromagnetic spectrum on a daily basis. So I'm going to ask you to, starting today, look around your house and identify how are you interacting with the electromagnetic spectrum. Are your lights on? Were you just on the cell phone? Did you use the microwave, etc.? You're also welcome to use any of your family's uses in this journal as well. So feel free to ask around. This will be a weekly assignment and it will be due next Monday, the 18th. All right, so just so you know, there will be coming a project on board, as I mentioned earlier. We will be briefly discussing that on Wednesday. We will also be having a Waves Gizmo on Wednesday, and I'll be introing the Electromagnetic Spectrum project next Monday. As always, we'll have a Google Meet coming at 11 o'clock today. You're welcome to drop in for any questions. Otherwise, I'm hopeful that you can email me with your questions. And then as a side project, if you don't mind just filling in the Google form for what songs would you most like to hear on our end of year slideshow. I know I have a few, but it might not be the same as what you would enjoy. So definitely, put your 2 cents in there. All right, well, I hope you have a great day and take care.